So Upanishad makes the statement that all that is here is Om, and Om is Ishvara. Okay. And where you see the forms are there, but they are mithya. If you inquire into the reality of forms, then they actually collapse into one reality, which is all knowledge and all power. Okay. Which manifests in and through all the forms. Please don't think that it is behind. It's not like a submarine where there is this ocean and then down below there is all knowledge and all power. In and through everything there is all knowledge and all power at work. Okay? Now the question comes, if all that is here is Ishvara, where can I place my eye? Okay? Because one thing one needs to understand, that the whole world is available to me as an object of my knowledge. Okay? There is only one thing which is available to me as something for which I don't need to use my eyes to know that I am. I don't need to use my ears to know that I am. I don't need to use any of the sense organs to know that I am. There is only one thing that is given to me, which is self-evident to me. And everything else is what? Evident to the self. Okay? So the whole world can be divided as something which is self-evident, which is I. Okay? And the other thing is evident to the self, which is what we call the object word. Drik and Drishya. Drik is the seer, Drishya is what is seen by me. Okay? So that means that you can negate the whole world as mithya because it keeps on collapsing into something and something and something. But can you then negate the inquirer who is looking at the world and saying that it is mithya? You can't negate the inquirer who is looking at the world and saying that everything is changing and what is changing is mithya. There is an inquirer which is the basis with which you actually conduct the inquiry. Okay? So this self-evident I remains, it is not mithya, please understand. Right? The inquirer is not mithya. So that means, what is then the nature of this self-evident I? Okay? According to the Upanishad, that the inquirer, when he or she collapses the whole world as mithya, it has to place its I, and that I can only be placed, what? With his identity with whom? With Ishvara. Okay. So now the Upanishad has this big task of showing you how you, the self-evident I, is not separate from Ishvara. Okay. And it starts with a method. Okay. And he says that this Atma, which is identical to Ishvara, has 4 parts. Because if everything is Ishvara, then this so-called everything is such a vague term. We don't even know what we mean by this term everything. Okay? So this everything is looked upon from a given framework. And what is the framework that it is talking about is, he says that Ayam Atma Chatushpat. This Atma has what we call 4 parts or 4 quarters. Okay? So then he says, what is the first part of this Atma that we are talking about, which is then equated to Ishvara? Okay. Here he says, Jagrita sthanaha bahish prajnaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukhaha sthula bhuk vaishwanaraha prathamaha padaha. Okay. This Atma that we think is the self-evident I, itself is divided into what we call 4 parts. Okay. What is the first part? He says the first part is Jagarita Sthanaha. Okay. So that means the first part of this Atma that we all know very well is what? My physical body. Okay. What is this physical body is something which is very interesting, because this physical body is available to me only in waking state. Okay? All the afflictions of the physical body, all the pains and aches of physical body, okay, are totally gone in deep sleep, okay, and in dream state. This is why sleep is such an essential part of our psychological well-being, because all your whatever huge problems that you have, okay, they all dissolve for you in a dream state. And this is what the psychologist, or what sometimes, these psychiatrists, they give you tranquilizers, because or mood changing, which puts you to sleep. Okay? So therefore, because all the afflictions of your physical body are not available to you in the deep sleep and in dream state. Okay? So that means what you think is I is actually available to you only for a certain hours in a day. Okay. So here he says Jagarita Sthanaha. The physical body and its connection with that physical body is available to you in a waking state. Okay. Then it is Bahishpradnyaha. Okay. It is something in the physical body are located the 5 sense organs. Okay. How is this physical body able to interact with the world? It is Bahishpradnyaha, means it is able to interact with this external world. There are objects, okay, and how is the body able to interact with, all these different objects? Through the senses. Okay. So that means the connection between the physical body and the rest of the world is through the senses. So that means that there are forms, and I have what? The eyes to see those forms. There are sounds, and I have what? The ears to hear the sounds. There are smells, and I have what? Nose to pick up different smells. And I can have very different, somebody picks up very subtle smells, somebody doesn't, right? Shona walks in and she says, this incense is so beautiful, I didn't even know there was incense, right? So there was you have trained senses and they can pick up very subtle things. But the fact is that the very fact that the nose can do that function means that there is a corresponding smell. It's all a setup. Okay. Then you have what? Sense of touch, and then what? There are objects which give you different sensations. And then you have taste, and you have all these different. I think Rashna was trying to figure out all the different tastes that are available to us, right?
Yes, that's right.
So
umami is also added.
So that means that this physical body is the instrument that you have to interact with the external world. So that's why it is called Bahishpradnyaha. Bahishpradnyaha means there is external world, and then because of the presence of physical body, you can interact with this external world. It gives you the experiences. Okay? And then he says that it is, okay, it has 7 angas and ekona vimshati mukhaha. Okay? It has 7 limbs and 19 mouths, and is the experiencer of gross objects. Okay. So what are the so there is a physical body, has what? Head, it has eyes, it has respiratory system, it has a trunk, it has a bladder, it has feet, and it has mouth. So these are the 7 kind of different limbs that it has. Okay. So this is something, and it has 21 mouths. So what does this 21 mouth mean? It has 5 sense organs. It has 5 organs of action. It has 5 prana, different types of prana, and it has 4 different types of mental modes. So we will see each one of them. Okay? What are the organs of action? Because not only I have to see the world, but I also what? Have to respond to the world, right? So that means I respond to the world with what? I pick up the external world through my senses. Then I respond through what? My organs of action. What are the organs of actions that are given to me? The speech, yes, exactly, right? So you have hands, then you have legs, then you have speech, then you have procreation, and then you have excretion. Okay? So therefore, you have 5 organs of action also that are required for you to function in this world. So the physical body that is given to you is something which is one part of what we call Atma, okay? And it has these characteristics. And then, so there are 5 organs of actions, 5 organs of sense organs. Then you have Pancha Prana. What are these Pancha Pranas? What makes the body alive? Sorry?
Breathing.
Yeah, exactly. So there is inhalation, exhalation. Then you have your, so that is what we call respiratory system. Okay. Then you have what? Circulation. Then you have digestive system. And then you have circulation, digestive, inhale and exhale. And what is the 5th is the
Not reproductive.
reproductory.
Yeah.
It's excretion. It is excretion, exactly. It is excretion. Okay. So you have these Pancha Prana, which are very much necessary for body to interact with the world. So now how many? 15, right? And then you have the mind. But the mind, because when the external world, when you see, for example, you see the tree, does the physical tree enter your mind? No. So how do you recognize tree? How do you experience? What is the experience? Okay, exactly. What is the process of this, the knowing this tree? In Sanskrit we call it Vritti Jnana. Anything that you know in this universe, you actually convert it into a thought and you actually recognize that thought. Okay? So for example, when I'm looking at the tree, what she's saying is my eyes pick up the form tree, then they send the signal to where? To my brain. Okay? What does the brain do?
Interprets.
Exactly. The brain creates a thought, okay, which is what we call the, if it is the tree, then it is creating a tree thought. Okay. And that tree thought, it is actually able to objectify. So this is when you say, now, oh, this is the tree. This whole process goes, and when I was walking here, I was talking to Savita, and she says that the way then I respond, it depends upon not what is there out there, but what is the thought which has taken place as a result of this process. Okay? So this is what I said, that if, let's say, there was a rope, and through this process, the brain processed that information, but the brain processed what? A snake, then I would have a snake thought instead of a rope thought. And I will objectify what thought? Snake thought. And what is going to be my response?
Fear.
Exactly. So that means I'm responding to the world not exactly in keeping with what it is, but what I see. Okay? So that means this Vritti Jnanam is something that what is our attempt then? What is our attempt? What is knowledge? Knowledge is when my vritti gives me exactly the same data as it is outside in the external world. Because if there is a coloration, then for me, what I see is what is happening in my vritti, what I have objectified. And my whole response is in keeping with what I have objectified. So therefore, vritti is the means through which I come to know everything. So mind, in fact, is nothing but vrittis. Vrittis means many different thoughts.
You can say in this modern psychological term, they say representation, mental representation, or they say cognition.
Cognition.
So here we are using the word in Sanskrit is vritti, or thought form. So all these words indicate, like, give you an idea of what it was speaking about.
Okay. So this is what we call the thought form. Now those thought forms itself is something which is very sophisticated. They themselves are of 4 types. They create 4 different types of responses. Okay. One which I explained is what we call, one is the process where the vritti, for example, when I am teaching you Vedanta, you try to absorb the ideas. Which part of the brain are you using? You're using your,
Cortex.
yeah, cortex, but you're using your cognitive capacity.
Cognitive capacity.
Right? Cognitive capacity is like when you go to a mathematics class and somebody says 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, you're using a certain part of your mind, which is what we call your intellect, right? Which is your intellect. Then you're, you can say that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, but I want to feel it. It's not a matter of feeling, it's just matter of understanding. Okay? So there is one part of your brain which is what we call the intellect. There is another part of the brain which is what we call the emoting mind. Because when I see the snake, not only I see the snake, but what? There is an emotional response. So that means there is a second aspect of my Antakarana, the mind, which requires body, it requires physical body, which is what we call the emotive mind, which is what we call manas in Sanskrit. So you have manas, you have buddhi, then you have what? Something else, which is what we call, if you had only the cognition which come and go, how long does one thought remain? Fraction of a second. Right? So it comes and goes. If you did not have, why still it gives you the continuity of this I, me, the individual?
Memory.
Exactly. The memory is the only link which gives you this sense of continuity. If you did not have memory, there would be, because every thought, even if you want to hang on to it, it will last only for a few seconds. Okay. So therefore, there is an extremely important function of the mind, which is what we call memory, okay, which gives you, in spite of the fact that those thoughts are changing at every second, it gives you what? This thing, me, I, Shona, and my history, or Preeti and my history. And that sense, that personality. Okay. Then there is a fourth given aspect, which is what we call ahankara. Okay. Ahankara in normal language, it means pride, ego. Here we don't use like that. Okay. It's a
What will memory default in?
chittam. And then we have ahankara. Ahankara does not mean any of the things that it means in the vernacular languages. It's a technical term which just means the sense of I. So that means the sense of I is again an I thought. Okay? Now this I thought is an interesting thought because this I thought doesn't just float in the air unconnected to everything. This I thought at times gets connected to emotion, and then I say what? I am happy now. Next minute something happens and your mood changes. So then you make next statement, what? I'm really upset now. So that means this I thought, which keeps changing also, please understand that. I thought equally keeps on changing, and it what? Gets connected at times to your emotive capacity and different emotions that you go through, and that you keep on making different statements about who you are. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm jealous, sometimes I'm feeling great, sometimes I'm feeling low. So you all the time keep on associating this I thought with what? Your emotions, and both are changing all the time. Your I sense keeps changing because it gets connected to different emotions at different time. Okay? But sometimes your I sense gets connected to your cognitive capacity. Right? So that means all the time in a class, that is amazing, people are learning, and each one, right from the childhood, you go to primary school and immediately people start saying, this person is intelligent and this person is not intelligent. Okay? You keep on assessing, and this one is okay, medium, and maybe this guy is creative and this guy is, you keep on identifying people based on what? Their IQ. This is what? Your I thought is not only getting connected to your emotion, but your I thought also at times what? Gets connected not with emotions but the cognitive aspect. With reference to which you make statements such as somebody is intelligent, somebody is not intelligent. What is a cognitive capacity? A cognitive capacity determines your capacity to understand concepts accurately. Okay? When a teacher is teaching you physics, everybody is sitting in the class. At the end of the term, there is an exam. The teacher asks questions. Okay? And what? Different people, they all, the teacher is one, everybody is listening, but how much have you understood what the teacher is trying to tell? The teacher tests at the time of the exam. Okay? And how accurately you have understood, based on that you are graded. And that is what we call intellect, your capacity to understand things accurately. Okay? And then you have chittam, because you have all this, you talk to any person and then they tell you their life history or whatever happened and all that. What is working? Is it that emotion, or it is the cognitive capacity? What is working? When I was young, I was like this, my childhood was like this. Exactly, your memory. Okay? So now, your I sense at times is getting connected to your emotions. Your I sense at times is getting connected to your intellect. Your I at times is getting connected to your memory. And this is how, through all these different connections, but I sense is continuing. So that's why it gives you this whole person, the persona of the person. Okay? And it makes it into a fixed entity, but actually all these four functions are changing all the time. All four. It seems as though I is continuous, but that I is only ahankara. Constantly changes. Okay. And this is what we call the first part of what? The Atma, which is your physical body. Now this physical body, so that is it, itself is Sthula book, and that is given to you to engage in the world, which are what? What? All the physical objects. This body is physical, and it can pick up what? All the physical objects. and it is Vaishwanaraha, and it is also Vaishwanaraha. My God, Vaishwanaraha, this person is called Vishwa, and the Samashti is what we call Virat. You think, okay, now I will explain. Okay, so now this physical body, you think that now this is my physical body. Okay. Simultaneously, there are so many other physical bodies. Okay. And all those physical bodies have similar characteristics. So that means your physical body is part, which is what we call Vyashti, is an individual, okay? And it is part of what? The entire physical world. Vyashti and Samashti. Vyashti is an individual and Samashti is the total. It is the one wave is Vyashti. Okay? The ocean is one entity and it contains all different waves. And if the eye of the wave is what? Placed in a wave, then it is very small and very insignificant. But if this wave is told, actually look at yourself, right? You think that this is an entity. What is Dvaita? Dvaita means you think that there is Jiva, Jiva, Bheda. One individual is separate from the other. The Jiva, Jagat, Bheda, that I am separate from the universe, and Jiva, Ishvara, Bheda. I am separate, I am something who is other than Ishvara. Okay. What is Dvaita? Advaita? Advaita says all that is here is one. So now, imagine the wave is told, you just shift your vision and you consider the entity ocean. How many oceans are there? Are there many oceans?
They're named differently.
There is only one ocean which contains what? All the waves. Okay? So from this individuality, which is one, right, I shift to another thing which is also only one, but it contains everything. You understand the methodology? So there is you with your physical body, and there is a corresponding samashti, which is the entire physical world, which is what we call Virat. Virat is your given body follows exactly the same principle as your body and his body and the body of everything. So this is what he says, if you shift your attention to that body which contains all the body, you become what? Part of one big scheme of thing and not an isolated individual who's fighting with the world which you think is external to you. It's a shift. It's a shift which is not an imagination. The ocean is already there, but the wave is too focused on that wave individuality. The wave sees oneself. The entity still remains one, the ocean, but it includes everything. Okay? So this is what?
It's always there.
It's always there. It's just a matter of seeing it. Right? So this is why the Virat itself is made into an entity. And it says that this Virat just has now this whole physical universe itself is seen as what? A physical body. One physical body. Okay? Now what are the eyes? Just as a human being has an eyes of the universe physical body, what would be the eyes? The sun. The sun is the eyes of that entire physical body, which what is the entire universe. Okay. Then your respiratory system, with reference to the whole universe, what is the corresponding reality about the entire physical universe? Exactly, air. Right? Air, which is, if you take one entity, which is the entire physical universe, just as you have the eyes, the physical universe as one entity has what? Eyes as sun. The absolutely, right? The air is the respiratory system, okay, and then the trunk that you have, right? If you take the Virat, the whole universe, it would be what?
Space.
My God, how do you know?
I'm just trying to imagine coming down.
It is true.
Amazing.
It is amazing. The trunk is the space, right? And then so that means you are now creating a whole entity which is the physical universe, and you are giving it what? The form which is a cube. Exactly.
One question, you say it's the universe. The universe, the sun, is it only contained in our world? And there are more galaxies, or it is
Yeah. So in fact, the sun with reference to our physical body, but then you can include all the stars, right? You can include all the stars. So it's just like an imagery to say that it includes all the stars, it includes the entire space within which all the objects exist, it includes air. So the physical universe, if you see in its totality, it includes everything. Okay, the sun, the star, the moon, the air, the space in which all the interactions take place. So the same image that you have, you create another entity which is what? The entire physical universe, and you give it the same form. Now, within that entity, your physical body is included or not? Very much included. Okay? It is shifting from this little individual me against the world. Imagine now, what is the vision? There is a shift. There is one entity within which I am what? One of the manifestations. That sense of isolation, the sense of separation, which gives you that limited sense of me, and you feel persecuted, and you feel this, and you feel that. You have to shift. Because that shift is not a positive thinking shift. It's a shift based on reality. So this is what he says is the first aspect of this Chatushpad. Okay? Now, there is a question raised by an opponent. So I'm going to do a little bit of advanced learning. Okay? He says, but you are talking about the physical I, Atma. Okay? And why are you including the entire physical universe in it? Because the Atma, if you are saying it has 4 quarters, the physical body is Atma. Why are you including the entire physical universe? And this is what he says. What is everybody comes with an understanding that I am this physical body. Okay? But where does Upanishad want to take you? It wants to take you to see what? An equation between you and Ishvara. Okay? if you were to understand that all that is here is Ishvara, or all that is here is you, your concept of I has to expand. Retaining your I in this little individuality, you cannot equate yourself to Ishvara. It's impossible. So you have to expand your thinking at every level, okay? And you have to see this physical body as part of this one grand entity, and your physical body as what? Included in that entity. Because unless you do that, you become what? You can't become big enough to be the truth of the whole universe. You cannot. So that means the same principles that govern the external universe are the same principles which govern this body. Okay? So therefore, first you need to resolve your sense of isolation at a physical level. Everything else is not me, right? And I'm only this much. With this orientation, you always will remain what? Highly limited. With that kind of an orientation, you can never understand all that is here is I and all that is here is Ishvara. So therefore, he says it is done very, very purposefully so that otherwise the equation is not possible. So this is what we call a human growth. A human growth is, that sense of isolation that we feel, that me against the world, that my individuality is so confined to here. If I resolve it in the entire physical thing, I'm getting ready and closer to this knowledge. Because otherwise, I'll never understand the final reality. So therefore, Vyashti and Samashti resolution is very much necessary. Vyashti is an individual, Samashti is the total. And your physical body is part of the physical universe. So therefore, the sense of separation has to resolve at that level. And it is one of the manifestations of the physical universe. Okay. Then he says that now, but is that all? What? That is the first part of Atma. What is the second part of Atma? What is this I that we are talking about? Is it only the physical? He says, no, there is something else, which he says, Swapna sthanaha antaha prajnaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukhaha praviviktaha taijasaha vritiyaha padaha. So then he talks about what we call something else about I, which is available to you in what he says Swapna Sthanaha. Swapna Sthanaha means something which is available to you in the dream state. I will talk about, I think I can end now, it's 1:30. Should I? I can continue? Yeah. Okay, great. I
Don't stop.
Okay. So, Swapna Sthanaha means what is available to you in your dream. In your dream, your physical body as it is not available to you. Okay? You can be full, you could have had very big meal and gone to sleep, and in the dream, what? You're hungry, right? So that means the physical body is working very hard to digest the food that you've eaten. But what? In your dream, what? What's happening? You're dreaming that you're hungry. The food is not enough. Okay? So that means what is available to you in the dream is not your physical body, but what? What is what we call the subtle? The subtle body subtle body is what we
Subtle
call,
body.
right? So that is maybe in psychology and Vedanta maybe there is difference, right? So what is available to you is subtle body. A subtle body is something that you must understand. Don't think that in waking it's not available. In waking it is available along with the physical body. The very fact that your physical body can actually do everything because it has subtle body with it. This is what makes what? The body alive or not alive, whether there is a presence of subtle body or not. But in the dream, you are given the subtle body without the presence of physical body and its sensation. So it highlights what? One fact, that only physical body is not the reality about you. There is this subtle body, which you can see in dream without what? Its association with the physical body. So this is what he says, that this subtle body is swapnasthana, that is available to you without physical body, so there is no doubt that it exists. Okay. So this is what he says, it is swapnasthanaha, it is antaha prajnaha. What does antaha prajnaha mean? That just like in the waking state you need external world, external tree, external mountain, external characters. In the dream, do you have any of the external mountains? And no. It is entirely, it is antaprajna. The whole, everything that you see in the dream is within you. You created this whole world, right? There is no so-called external to you like in waking. Waking, you are this body and the tree is outside you. In the dream, the whole thing is inside you. So it is what we call antaprajna. Okay. Then it says, it is saptangaha, okay, and it is ekona vimshati mukhaha. So therefore, he says that, and it is what we call Tejasaha. So there is this Tejasaha, which is the individual subtle body. Okay. Now individual subtle body is what my understanding is, that this is what I am. Okay. So all these physical forms that are there, right, they are possible because of the subtle functions. There is this physical arm that I have, which belongs to what? The physical body. Okay. But there is a capacity which makes the arm move, and that is what? Subtle. Because just by looking at my arm, you won't be able to tell whether I'll be able to move it or not. You see the physical arm, you don't see the capacity of what? Whether it has the capacity to move or not. Because it's not available to you in your physical, that's why we call it subtle. So wherever there is physical, there is exactly, that's where there is subtle functioning. You can see the physical eye. There is a movie where somebody has an extremely beautiful eye, but it cannot see. So you can see the physical eye, but you have no idea whether you see clearly. I don't know whether you see clearly or not. So that means the function of the eye, its ability to see or not, is what we call subtle. Okay. So wherever there are 5 sense organs, what? There is a subtle aspect of it. Wherever there are 5 organs of action, there is a subtle aspect of it. The prana function is also subtle, because you, in fact, you don't know what. That's why you have, I think people do this pranic healing. They say that now this prana is all gone, I don't know what, in imbalance, and then they'll put the prana in place, right? They are not really talking about this respiratory system, they are talking about some other balance which makes that whole thing works as a system. That is what we call subtle. Okay. So wherever this physical body is, each of its function requires the subtle aspect. And even the mind, there is one mind which is what we call the physical brain. The chemical balances, the wiring, the neurons, this is what we call the physical brain. But then there is a subtle aspect of what that makes that brain process whatever it processes. So that is also included, right? There is this, in that is what you call, that is an aspect of your subtle body. So you have this whole subtle body. The individual subtle body is what we call the HSR. The HSR is me, the individual. But if you look at, and that's where, if your focus of I is this, my subtle body, this is one entity and everything else is external to it, again what? Your sense of I is very limited. So he says, now look at another entity, which is what? The entire subtle universe. Just as you can include your physical body in the entity which is what? Entire physical universe, you can also include your mind as what? One part of what? Entire subtle universe. Okay? So now you are becoming bigger because your point of reference initially was only this little one, and then everything else was external to it. Now you are coming up with a much bigger entity, which is what? Which is what we call Hiranyagarbha, the entire subtle world, and within which you are what? Are you external to it? You are part of it all. Okay? At each level, you have to understand that you are part of this whole bigger entity. How will you understand that you are the whole if you continue your I in this little body, this little mind? It's impossible. You have to expand your vision at every level. Every level where you have identification with this, you have to make it as what? One entity within which your physical body is, within which your what? Mind is, and that entity includes everything. So this is what we call Hiranyagarbha, which is the entire subtle world. And the entire subtle world has its certain laws, okay, which why your mind is different from my mind. Okay, so there are certain laws, and that we will see later a little bit. But we are not talking about, when we say that all that is here is one, we are not saying that everything is the same. Please understand that. Okay? Your physical body is different from my physical body. Nobody is denying that, right? We are not collapsing and we are not saying everything is the same. That's not what we are saying. We are saying that there is one other entity which includes all of everything. So that means your sense of separation, your sense of I as being one individual and everything else other than you, that orientation goes away. Okay? Minds are many, but I'm coming up with another entity which is a much bigger entity, which is Hiranyagarbha, the totality which includes all the different minds. So I can appreciate the fact, one wave can appreciate that the other wave is different, but both are within what? Ocean. Because there is one entity, two waves don't make two oceans. Please understand that. When we talk about non-duality, we are just shifting. We are not talking about all the waves being the same. We are also not talking about, each, ocean are many. We are not talking about wave being separate from everything else. We are just shifting our vision from the waveness to what? The oceanness, and including everything. Remains only one entity. my physical body is what? Seen as part of the entire physical universe. My little mind is seen as part of the entire subtle universe. Okay? And that subtle universe includes what? The subtle mind of everybody who has existed in the past, everybody who is existing in the present, and everybody who will ever exist in the future.
Please come again.
Yeah. So that means that the totality, it doesn't include only the present. Right? When I say the entire physical does not include only what? The physical bodies which are existing in the present. They include what? All the physical bodies which will ever exist in the past, and all the physical bodies which will ever exist in the future. Because you don't know what physical bodies are going to come into being, but they will always be part of one entity, which is Virat, which includes all the physical forms. You understand? And the entire subtle will include all these minds which existed before, and all the minds which exist now, and all the minds which will exist in future. So that means there is only one entity here. Don't think that you are external, you are separate from the world. Don't think there is only one entity which is manifesting as many. Okay, so you have on one hand the physical body and the physical universe. You have subtle body and the entire subtle universe. Then you can ask, but why my physical body and my subtle mind is different from your subtle body and your physical body? What accounts for those differences? So this is what we say, that there is another thing which is the third part of Atma, which is the causal. Okay? The causal. Okay? So the causal we will see next time what it is.
The subtle universe will only include our subtle mind.
Or
It
it
also include the
excellent. The subtle, the entire subtle will include the mind of a lizard. It will include the mind of an insect. It will include the mind of anything that is here, right? It will include everything that is sentient.
Non-living things.
See, non-living things, they don't have the subtle, right? What is the difference between a living and a non-living entity? That the only thing is that they are all part of Ishvara. It's nothing but one entity. One is with subtle body, where one is without subtle body.
will a tree be included?
Yeah, tree, because tree has life. So that will, so that means this entire subtle will include all the intelligence that is there in the tree. It will include everything. Okay? So there is one total subtle which covers everything. And this is why you have a human brain with its own parameters, what it can do and what it cannot do. And within those parameters and within this range, there are innumerable differences. Now that is all part of that one subtle entity which covers everything. Then the human mind is wired differently than what? A cow's mind. So that means that is a different range altogether. But within the cow brain, each one has a different cell. So that means when we are talking about one entity, which is the totality, it includes everything. And you are in that. Don't think you are outside that. This orientation that me and the world is what? That I'm here and the world is different from me. You have to change that. Because otherwise, my teacher says, you're always a ninja. Always a ninja means me protecting myself, right, from the world, which is hostile to me. But with this orientation, you can't go to limitlessness. It's impossible. Okay, so that means there is an entity which is Virat. Within that, I have what? My Vishwa, one physical body, with which I have a special connection. No doubt about it. Because when this physical body is in pain, you don't feel the pain. Okay? When this mind is afflicted, you are not afflicted. Okay? So among all the different bodies, you do have a special connection with one body. There is no doubt about it. Among all the different minds, you have a special connection with one mind. No doubt about it. Okay? But that is only who you are, is your conclusion.
This way of thinking can bring compassion.
Exactly. Because that's how you become bigger. This is what we call the growth. Unless that growth takes place, vision of Vedanta is not understood.
Naturally compassion comes.
You're naturally, exactly. You don't have to be given the lesson of how to be compassionate. Okay. Because your scales of vision have changed. It's natural. It's a shift. It's a shift based on reality. It is not a shift based on some kind of a, think positive. So you continue to be this little individual and you said, the universe works, according to my wishes. Hey, come on. The universe doesn't work according to your wishes. You're just one little speck if you keep your eye here. You have to shift.
Merge with
Yeah, exactly. It is at every level you see here that there is one entity which is also here. And it is there. And it is there. Now we will see the causal. And then there is a lot more to learn. Right? You think that you've seen it, my God, this is just a starting. This is Upanishad. Upanishad is not an ordinary text. It has a vision which is marvelous. Makes you bigger and bigger and bigger till you include the entire universe. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti.